It seems that conflict is the basis of the human life, social interaction, political, and wars. Conflict is also the source of development, so it seems. And maybe it is so. And I know a lot of studies and clever people and less clever people will say that the conflict in life is the basis for everything and we cannot avoid it. And so we can as well get used to it as the way we humans get on, just like in nature, where conflict is the basis for the survival of those who are fit for their duty and those who cannot uphold a winning in that conflict will vanish and disappear. And that's the rule of nature, and so will be the rule of man. I would just like to make a comment on those thoughts that seems very widespread out in between humans, that it might be so, but we have to know that it could be and can be different. This is not a moral talk or a kind of criticism of conflict as the root of our human actions. It is more just so we know that if we wanted truly inside us, we have the capability of avoiding conflict and rising above it and building civilizations that truly avoids conflict and see it as a big scare and a destructive mean between us as humans. Conflict can be in itself very, very fine because it leads to that kind of development, like when you are in conflict with yourself about an issue and you think a lot about it or you try to resolve it, the result will be better than if you didn't have that conflict. You would just be standing still. And so is the conflict between humans can sometimes be destructive, but also many times lead to a better cooperation or understanding or a set of rules and order in life that on the surface may seem random, but perhaps has had that beautiful effect of developing the parts in it. So, why should we talk against conflict or always be shocked when we hear that a nation or a people is going into conflict? It's the basis of equilibrium in life, and when that satisfaction and uncertainty hits a person, a nation, a group, they are ready to go to conflict because their losses will be too huge, too big, or maybe they have a plan for the gains through the conflicts that they create. So it seems the natural order of politics, economics, trade, and human relations that whenever you feel in a kind of discontent or maybe lacking behind, you should create a kind of conflict to get what you want, if you can see that that will get you what you want. If the conflict, of course, leads to the greater loss, you should avoid it. And that seems a natural way of approaching life as we see it in normal day. And I do not dispute that. Realistically, it seems very, very likely. But at the same time, everything I've read so far, and that's not much in life, but maybe enough to understand that we humans have the instinct and the intelligence. And the intelligence we have can lead us to other and better ways to achieve an everlasting peace between us. So conflict does not always end in destructive wars and that harsh reality where instincts of fear, anger, frustrations take over and becomes the master of any situation we are in. We have that capability, and that's the important thing to understand. And so, if we look all the way back as far as we have been able to in anthropology, we see there are small texts from the old Egypt Empire. I believe it's called Totem Paz scripts, or an old Egypt script that shows how that very old civilization had some instructions on how to avoid conflict and how to organize life in a way that brings it more prosperity and peace than conflict. And the same has someone found from the oldest Chinese cultures, a way of organizing that avoids those kind of destructive results. If people look at religion, we see that religion, despite its aggressive sides, also have had this message of avoiding conflict, especially between the group and inside it, or to lead the promised people out of the zone of conflict and into a peace and harmonical life. And the same we see in any kind of enlightenment philosophy, the belief in the humans and their ability to rise above their nature of instincts and let their consciousness and intellect and behavior become true valuable, and so rising above the instincts that could drag us in one direction, but that we are able to control them and use our freedom and will, especially the will becomes very important here, to gain control over that instinct that could lead us to destruction. And so, where are we today from these beautiful ideals, and how have we lost sight and even believe in their ability to lead us in a different direction? I guess we are truly many people. This is just a feeling I have, hunch, impulse, whatever, that really many people around the globe don't even think about this issue, but also have lost the belief in it. And so we are like just living, awaiting the next conflict and the wars of the lords of war and the tragedy to lead us into a kind of a new abyss of blood and coldness and hardships and loss of the goods in life. I think many are very wary for that and will react instinctively by siding up with whom they know or believe are the better part in any coming conflict that can be started artificially by humans or maybe for some other gains. And that's what's going to happen. Usually that's what happens in human history, especially when we fail to keep that ideal high in the sky and in our hearts, believing in its possibility. But I just want to mention for now, and maybe the future robots are going to listen to all what we have been saying, it is possible for the humans, because of their intelligence and because of their freedom and will to freedom, to avoid the conflicts that are destructive and bringing them into the same repetition of history again and again. And so that kind of awareness that we have in us as humans, the consciousness of the ability to rise above and to control whatever leads us to destructiveness, is a way and a possibility that can be fulfilled hypothetically. It hasn't really truly been fulfilled for a long time in human history. And so whoever intelligent beings these robots are gonna be, or whatever comes after us, and will look back and see, well, they lost every chance and never missed a chance to go in conflict and let the instincts rule. And above that, they have made the theories and the similarities with nature help them make an excuse for their behavior. And that's the low side of who we are as humans. And that we use our intelligence and intellect and rationality to say, well, nature is like this, we're part of nature, this is our development process, this is how it's going to happen, we cannot avoid it. But a lot has also shown that we have the possibility to avoid it. Just take the measures of a small family or the big laws that has existed in human history that has made big shifts in societies and their reality. We see it also in today's societies, how not only order by suppression, but also order by the will to freedom and responsibility has taken us far in a like almost what seems everlasting peace in that country or that place with minor incidents. So it is possible. And if it's possible in one part of the human culture, it can be possible in all parts of the human culture. And so even though we read with Hamlet and Shakespeare that it's part of the human nature to go and fight and strive for their honor when it is deposed, and that we rise above our wounds to go and fight back instead of just accepting those defeats. We also read and understand that it is for no use to go and do such things. And so, to quote freely from Hamlet in the last third act, in the last scene there, uh, my very open and faraway translation from the Danish Hamlet, that he's saying, "Wherever I stand and let the blood and the reason being in uprise, but I let everything slumber, I will be shameful, because to go to fight for that kind of honor is my way, bloody as it is, or nothing worth." And so it's very dramatized and set up as a true choice between to defend that honor or to die, or not to live at all. And that is part of who we are as well, that we do not want to lose what we find is our freedom and our way of life. And that's why we almost always choose conflicts and see it as the way to get on. And so, as he said in a dialogue earlier, often will the peace and prosperity become a kind of swollen wound that will burst and do not show any sign of death on the outwards. So if you do not act on your instinct for conflict and the reason for it, your honor and your way of life, there is something in you that will die, because you will feel you have lost something. So it becomes also part of who we are to fight for these ideals that we hold, the goals that we want, the things that is lacking, the enemy that's attacking, and get back our way of life in honor or die trying. And that's why every nation on earth has these values of valor and honor and some kind of sacrifice to get between the situation as it is and the winning on the other side. So nothing to blame, again, as said in the beginning, but there is another way, and that way is also shown us. And that is the way to the human value above all these struggles and fights. And so if we can keep that target in mind, that the human as valuable in itself is not to be killed or destroyed or in any way attacked, we will have risen above these instincts and their explanations, and above the culture and its reasons, and above the valor and its very hot felt enticement to do what we usually do. And it needs maybe a whole new kind of understanding, education, problem solving that has truly and seemed to have truly failed in those transnational organs like human rights and the human rights organs and the peacekeeping organs and the different institutions that should like make everyone respect them for what they do. And so we are not there, maybe we will not get there, but we have to keep thinking about that it is a possible hypothesis, because it's also what is part of us to get to that freedom by the will of non-conflict, or a conflict that doesn't become destructive, a conflict that is constructive, that leads us to a good development together, but that is non-destructive for us as humans.